Thank you, sir, for sharing a journey, your journey, and the pack of cards which contains cards made by children in Tata Medical Center, their stories you carry in that bag. I am happy to introduce our Honorable CEO, Dr. P. Arun, who is also the Chief Director of Tata Cancer Foundation and Director Assam Cancer Care Foundation. Thank you, sir, for gracing the event and being here today. Our Deputy Director, Major General Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, is also there. Welcome, both of you. He's also a professor in surgical oncology. May I request Dr. Arun, our CEO, to introduce and give a welcome address to the gathering.
Thank you, Rizwan. All our guests from all around the world, dignitaries, leading lights of science who have assembled here. The goal assigned to me is to welcome you, and a role which I take upon myself with a lot of gratitude and pride. Thank you all for coming to Kolkata in this little brief period which we call winter and which we really enjoy. Thank you for gracing our institute with your visit. I was sitting through Dr. Munshi's talk, and I'm really amazed to see that myeloma is now there's a definition for cure coming up. And that just shows how far science has taken us, how far it has led us by the hand. And when Dr. Maman told me yesterday that the leading lights of the world will be assembling in TMC, it gave me great joy. So thank you all for coming once again, coming together. I'm also very happy to say that our team, led by Dr. Reena, Dr. Jeevan, Arijit, Rizwan, and so many others, including our nurses and members of BMT and cellular technology, have taken so much of effort to make this event happen and to make you stay comfortable in Kolkata. I'm also amazed at the fact that we now have a specialty for one disease called myeloma, and that's the way the world is heading in terms of subspecialization. And no wonder, because the amount of scientific literature, the new technologies which are coming in, the new drug and therapeutics which Dr. Munshi elaborated, that was news to me. When I came in, I had thoughts, why do we need a myeloma society? It does make sense that, to assimilate that kind of science and put it into practice, you certainly need a myeloma society to take it forward. I'm also aware that the technologies which he mentioned do come across to my table by way of budgets and graphs and charts and say, these technologies are expensive. Like Dr. Mishra said about his not being very happy about the fact that we are not keeping up to pace with technology, there is something which we will fail in times to come is to keep up with the cost of treatment. I do hope there are sessions in your meetings where you would discuss that as well. Bring in science within the element of conscience. So the word science does come into conscience if you look at the spelling of it. And there would be discussions on how we could make this acceptable to a larger group of people. So thank you so much. I'm really delighted to have you all here. And I won't stop you from going on to the scientific sessions which are due to follow. Thank you once again.
So thank you, sir. May I request you to kindly stay back for the inauguration as I invite Dr. Tapan Sekya, Dr. Velu Nair for the inauguration and lighting the candle. I would also request Reena ma'am, Dr. Jeevan Kumar, Dr. Mayur Parihar, Dr. Deepak Mishra, sir, to please help light the candle. Lighting the Maman sir and Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, please. Lighting the candle in Indian tradition symbolizes the spread of light of knowledge. I am sure that you would all carry back some amount of light to whichever places you have come from.
You have to leave the lamp. Dr. Mishra. I'll follow.
No.
Rina should do it first. I heard.
Okay, I take this.
Ladies first.
नहीं हम बराबर करें डॉक्टर कपूर जी मैं डॉक्टर कपूर this one come for the Kodak moment.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. May I now request Dr. Uday, the Secretary of the Image, to take over and present the formal inauguration on behalf of Image.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll not hold you long, but it's an extremely important session for all those who are attending because we are going to tell you the avenues, the possibilities, and the way to go ahead as far as the myeloma field or the science is concerned. And also, we'll give you a quick recap about what's happened in the last 1 year and what is the way forward or what are we looking at, what is the vision of the society. I think it's not working. So this is how a secretary is supposed to be, ideally smiling, but this is what actually the life of a secretary is. He keeps listening from everybody. Thereafter, he also has to listen from all the howlings from all the participants, and finally this is what he transforms to. But this is not what I'm going to express in the next half an hour. I'm going to present you the progress report or the update. So coming to the Indian Myeloma Congress, we have come a long way. It's been 7 years. Conference at different parts of the country. As a policy, we conduct the conference only in institutes. We don't believe in conducting it in hotels and spending money there. So the idea was conceived in PGI Chandigarh in September 2016, when for the first time a requirement for having a separate society or a field or a group of people to come together and work in the field of myeloma was conceived with just 52 faculty members at that particular point of time. And then the society was registered in year 2018 at Army Hospital RNR by the team AHRR, and it was one of the largest conferences we had, wherein we had almost around 1,200 people all together attending that conference at Manekshaw Auditorium, 824 members and 342 nurses across the country, and 12 different specialities included, from ortho to dermatology to radiology to radiotherapy and various other things. And the highlight was we actually announced a GVN traveling fellowship, General Nair traveling fellowship. Thereafter, the reins were handed over to TMH Mumbai, wherein the ACTREC did a fantastic job. They did a second annual conference at ACTREC Mumbai. The first set of 4 students for international fellowships were selected during that conference. Total 317 participants, a conference over 2 days, and around 110 students were supported that year, and prizes worth 1.5 lakhs were distributed. So in this particular conference, we launched Care for Myeloma, the data registry for the country. And since then, we have been collecting prospective real-time information for the country. Then we moved on to Hyderabad, wherein Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences did the third annual conference with around 318 registrations, and an upgraded version based on whatever feedback we received from various centers which were entering the data. A Care for Myeloma version 2 was launched, and also a mobile app for both the patients who are registered by the institutes and for the doctors from that particular institute was launched. Therein, after we got COVID, but the spirits were upheld by the society, and we had a virtual conference organized by SGPGI at that particular point of time. And following that, after the COVID subsided, the enthusiasm was revived, and we had the 5th conference at Bangalore, IMC 2023, at St. John's by Dr. Hari Menon and his team, and we had 176 registrations. And at this point of time, we said that we require a newsletter to inform students, inform faculty and the patients alike about the various activities and what needs to be done or what is being done. The 6C was done at Pune by Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital along with AFMC Pune. 185 registrations altogether, and we had total of 418 participants, including faculty and others. In this particular conference, the highlight was we had announced for chapters. We said that myeloma is a huge field. We need to have components of it, and thereafter amyloidosis and Waldenstrom's chapter were released in this particular conference. Now, that was the immediate past conference, and that was 2.5-day program done at Symbiosis Medical College, 412 delegates, and we had announced 2 particular new fellowships or awards in this particular thing. The senior most founding executive committee member happens to be Dr. Tapan, and we had instituted traveling fellowship. So all the students who are going to participate for IMC, Indian Myeloma Congress, we are going to sponsor their travel through this traveling fellowship. So last year, 54 fellows were given this traveling fellowship. Thereafter, so this was a travel fellowship, and these are the students who received it last year. We also announced the next senior member in the executive committee happens to be Reena Nair ma'am. So we had instituted a Dr. Reena Nair educational grant. This is to take care of the lodging and the boarding and the miscellaneous expenditures that the student have. So a fixed amount of 1,500 rupees per day for the duration of the conference was announced for 24 fellows. So by this, we could actually take care of the costs that the students were spending in coming and attending this. Our aim was to make sure that the students do not spend money for attending conferences and for gaining knowledge. So these are the students who received it last year. And then comes, so हमने बोला मैडम आपके नाम पे अवार्ड इंस्टीट्यूट कर दिया तो अभी हम आपसे काम भी कराएंगे. And we said कि मैम you need to hold the next annual conference, and ma'am gracefully accepted this offer, and thanks to Deepak sir and ma'am and the complete team, we have this 7th conference going on. I'm not going to talk much because you are already witnessing what's all good is happening in this particular conference. But yes, the next conference, the 8th one, we are going to have it at Amrita Institute of Amrita Health Sciences Campus and Amrita Institute. So this is going to be from 9th to 11th of January 2026. And I would request the organizing chairperson for the next year, Dr. Neeraj, to just come and invite the audience and the people, the delegates out here for the next conference.
Good evening and good afternoon, and thanks today, and thanks to the Executive Committee of IMAGE for selecting Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences Kochi for the next conference. Kochi is a beautiful place to visit, and it's a winter time is also a good time to come there. So, and we are really excited to invite every one of you to the 2026 IMAGE annual meeting that will be on 9th to 11th. Thank you.
So Neeraj is really kind in saying that good tourism, good places, beachside and everything. But let me tell you some scientific components to it. They happen to be one of the first institutes to have a comprehensive amyloid care center. And hopefully, by next year, we will take it as a target because we are going to conduct it in Amrita. So we compile the national amyloid data and we should be presenting that have a separate session there. So the facilities, the hematology work which is being carried out at Amrita is actually of a phenomenal level. So we would all like to witness the amount of work that you people are doing there. So we would request all of you to kindly register for the next year's conference. Okay, now coming hereafter. So after we have spoken about conferences, so societies are not meant only to do conferences. So we are here as a ray of hope to take out the darkness from the society, the darkness brought in by myeloma and the plasma cell dyscrasias. So this is our motto, wherein when we started this particular society, we thought of furthering the myeloma care in our country, furthering patient care, caregiver empowerment, better training for the students, opportunities for the doctors interested in dysproteinemias by allowing them and facilitating international fellowships, collaborative trials, National Myeloma Registry, and Indian-based recommendation. So we'll go through it, all this, that what all we have done and what all we have achieved. So first thing, the finances part of it. So as a secretary, I'm supposed to say that first. So we are a trust. We are not a society. First thing first, we can take donations. Any donations coming to the trust are exempted from tax and you get a tax rebate. So we have ATG, 12A and 10BB all in place. Our ITRs, GSTs and TANs are all up to date. This is for the industry. And we also can take CSR. So the CSR funds can also be taken by us. And there have been few industry partners who have tried to help us out with the CSR funds. So these are all our certificates for the same. This year, we are also going to get our FCRA clearance in the first 6 months of the year. And thereafter, we are eligible for taking foreign contribution as well. So with this coming in, that would be great. This is our budget expenditure. This is just to show you that what we spend on conferences or society running happens to be less than 20% of the complete what we do. Majority of what we are doing is for the students and for the patients. And we'll go into slight detail about this. Now, we are the only society in the country wherein the complete Excel sheet, the budget sheets, and our accounts are on open domain. Anybody can see them. You can see exactly what are we spending it for, whom is it going to, and for what purpose is it going to. So they are all here, and this is on our website. We have this here, but you have to be a member to see this. Now, coming for year in review, what we have done in the last 1 year. First thing, journal clubs. This is our highlight event, which we do every month on the 4th Thursday. And we request all of you to kindly please participate in this particular event. And I'll also tell you at the end of it why students should henceforth participate. So those who miss these activities, all the journal clubs are available on the website. The members can view all the videos till date. So this year we had 12 journal clubs across 7 cities. The institutes, 11 institutes participated in this particular thing. And I would like to thank Sumit for helping me out on this particular task. And this is the link and the place wherein you can see on the website the journal club. And once you click it, you'll be taken to the YouTube link and you can watch the experts' opinion, both national and international, about recent articles which are published. And more importantly, you get to know what is going in the background, behind the curtains, and why a particular study was designed and what finally happened. Because when we write articles or get published, everything does not come in the manuscript. So for understanding those nitty-gritties, it's good to attend these journal clubs. And also, in the newsletter, if you click, our newsletters are interactive PDFs. So, wherein you get a commentary, summary, and the commentary. Summary is what that article actually spoke of in the public domain, in the manuscript. And the commentary is about what the experts feel about it. So, that's been summarized here and is brought forward. The second thing is journal scan. So, we request all our students, fellows, and junior faculty to send a commentary, 175-word commentary or a letter to editor format about a recently published article. And we have lucrative awards. And these are the 7 commentaries which we received this year and from different institutes. But let me tell you that there are few institutes who do it very commonly, particularly SGPGI and TMH Mumbai or ACTREC, so they do it. Again, in the newsletter, you can have a link for this, and the commentary or the students' version of what they felt about this particular article, the best which gets selected, comes out here. The third is monthly quizzes. So based on the general club and the general scan which is discussed, we have a 5-question quiz, monthly quiz, fastest finger first, and again exciting prizes. So 12 quizzes were held, but I think we should all clap for SGPGI. They have won it 5 times, and in fact it's one student who has won it most of the times. So Deep Gala. So Deep, if you are around or if Sanjeev is around, so congratulations to SGPGI. So this is as far as the summary is concerned. Now, all the quizzes, thanks to Arun and now Yashas, they compiled it on both on the website as well as in the newsletter. So it's a ready compendium for postgraduates who are preparing for DM, for undergraduates who are preparing for PG, wherein you have all the myeloma questions, simple questions put in here. And initially we used to only put the questions. Now we have also started putting the answers and the explanations why those answers are. So it's a good ready reckoner for the students. Next, coming to UG outreach. Dr. Pankaj and Dr. Joseph John, in Hematology Society, they thought that the hematology should go to the UG level. Taking this idea forward, the current president, Dr. Pankaj, said in myeloma field also we should do the same. And for this, we have taken some initiatives. And in fact, Dr. Tapan sir and Dr. Joseph John, they came over. We have a largest UG medical conference happening at FMC known as Illuminati, wherein around 100 medical colleges participate and they present their papers. It's like a medical conference. So in that, we created what is known as STEM talks. So based on science, technology, engineering, and medicine, in actual STEM, it's mathematics, but here it's medicine. How can you solve a problem? So we have given them problems related to myeloma, and they come out with solutions for that. And we have beautiful answers, snippets by the students, which are recorded and are put on YouTube. And these are the various things that we have. And in multilingual, multiple languages that these people have recorded and put it across. So these are available, and we actually felicitate these students. So this is what is the thing. This is based on the FameLab international competition. So this is what we have been doing, and the Student Scientific Society has been doing this. Based on this, we select Student of the Year. Obviously not Alia Bhatt, but we have selected in 2022 these 3 students, and in 2023 these 3 students were selected. Now you see the transition. Now these are the top 3 students are the ones who went ahead and presented their papers by this motivation in IMS conference at Greece, and all the 3 students were then supported. This year we did Resonate, wherein we gave them a problem. We said amyloidosis is a problem. You need to explain the patient in the simplest terms, amyloidosis. So it's an ATCOM module which the NMC wants the students to develop, the communication and understanding. So we did that as Resonate, that is resonating the patient's story or trying to tell him how to explain in the best way the disease. And we had 29 medical colleges participating in this particular meeting. And the way the students explained about amyloidosis, it was actually an eye-opener. Even most of the DMs don't do it in such beautiful way. They were given just 1 to 2 minutes to explain, and they did it in the best possible way. And we had the first student, the winner, from AIMS Bibinagar, Hyderabad, and the second student from Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, Belgaum in Karnataka. So this was one thing which was done. And thereafter, I'm going backwards. So these are the 3 students who won the STEM, also won the travel sponsorship. And this year that number increased to 6. So for the Brazil meeting, we had 6 students presenting myeloma papers from undergraduates. So that shows if we try to inspire this young lot, energetic lot, and if we could give them this direction, they can go way ahead, and they can come out with important solutions to the problems, and they are technologically more savvy than what we all are. So this is what is about UG thing that we are doing. And this year in the IMC 2025, currently today morning we had presentations from Celine, Rupika. Yesterday Sagaldeep presented. We had these 3 are from FMC. We had Aditi Raghav from Army College of Medical Sciences in Delhi. And are there any other undergraduates who are here who presented the papers? Okay, if none, so I would like to call these 4 students onto the stage, and I would request Tapan sir to felicitate these 4 students. We like your enthusiasm, we like your things, and in the meantime, I would request Naveen sir for his opinion because he heard the students presenting. So sir, what's your opinion about undergraduates presenting? So yeah.
Was that part of the script?
No, this is supposed to be impromptu.
No, I think they are great. And at least in Tata Memorial Center, we have many students who come from KEM in the undergrads, and they really do a great job. Some of them have even gone to Ash with a transplant abstract, from our center. So I think we must encourage the undergrads to do this. And for there, I think this is a great initiative. And I think from KEM, quite a few went last year too.
Yes, sir, 6 of them,
Yes,
and we have projected those slides there. Sir.
Yes, and Bausab from our institute mentors all of them. So
In fact, that was my next slide. So you can have a photograph. Sir. No, sir. Now, what Naveen sir concluded with the last statement, actually, training undergraduates require time. And if whatever time we are investing on them, we are investing on ourselves because they are our future. Tomorrow, 20 years down the line, I develop a problem, I go to them. So, people just rather than hushing them away saying that, yaar, ab mera time barbaad mat karo, actually, you are trying to secure your future. So it's very important, and I would like to sincerely thank Dr. Bau Saab for the way he is doing it in KEM and the way the undergraduates are actually encouraged. Do we have Bau here? Okay. So, so that's a fantastic job, and we should all do it in all medical colleges. We are here in Image to support the undergraduates, and this is something wherein at least first you should take a medicine or a pathology, and thereafter then get into hematology, and then get into myeloma. So we are also trying to bribe you that you should take hematology in the future. Okay. So now coming back to the story, so the next thing is patient support. So whatever we are doing, all these things is meant for the patients and the patient support. So as Image, we have created some transplant bricks. These are available for 5 to 10 bricks in a year. That's all that what we can afford. So in this, we are going to help the patients with who are below poverty line and who are getting managed and who have to do out-of-pocket expenditure. So we are trying to help them. So again, this is thanks to Dr. Sumit and Dr. Naveen Khatri. So at Homi Bhabha Institute at Varanasi, Sumit could actually help 4 transplant patients directly and 4 additional patients with some partial bricks. So this is all his effort. And I would also like to thank Dr. Pankaj and Dr. Joseph John for securing the sponsorship for this from Oswald Industries, wherein Oswald Industries gave us 10 lakh rupees. So thanks to Oswald Industries as well for sponsoring this particular activity. And other than this, we also went ahead. Many patients might not require a complete transplant. They would require small support. कि patient का investigation कुछ नहीं हो पा रहा है, some SPP not able to done, SIF not done. So we have tried to do that as well, wherein whoever have written to us saying that we require some help, either through patient groups or directly, we have tried to help those people, and we have spent approximately another 2.5 lakhs for in this way as well. Also, we have some coordination or some MOUs with some organizations. So Vishranti and CARE, or CIMS, or the CARE India, are the 2 organizations wherein they identify patients. They do the ground checks about their below poverty line, non-affordability, and then they refer to us and we help those people. So this is something which, if you have any of these patients, please write to us. We'll try to do whatever is possible. So that is something which we'd like to do. Okay. The next part, as far as the patient thing is concerned, is having a proper data recorded. So the registry that we have is not meant for researchers per se. It's meant for ease of the management, for the doctors and for patients to keep their records. Secondary outcome, or the secondary part of it, is basically to help in data analysis. So these are the latest numbers as on today morning, what we have. So leading the path is the president with PGIMER entering around 1,500 patients data. We also have RGCI 912 and TMC Kolkata 950 and RGCI 912 patients. So this is the information. We would request all institutes to first register with us, and thereafter please enter your data so that we can get some national information about the various factors. Now the immediate paper which is coming out, which is already in the process, is the median age of the myeloma patients in India. Every time, everywhere it's quoted we are 1 decade younger, but that's not the truth. When we compile the data across the country, we are exactly what it is in the West as well. So we can actually bust a lot of myths if we have a national data. We have the national data, you put up an idea, you write the article. We are not interested as Image. So this is for you, students, to compile data, to put in data together and to write information out of this. So this is just that we are creating a platform where all of us as a country can come together. This is a QR code for all those who are interested in becoming a part of the National Myeloma Registry. You can just scan this code and send your intent. Also on the website, we have an intent column, expression of interest. You send it to us, we'll guide you through that what are the steps involved in becoming a part of this. You need to sign some MOUs, sign some non-disclosure agreements, and have an IEC from your institute before we take you on board. The next activity is source data verification. So this is, I will confess, this is my fault. In the last 1 year, we thought of doing this. We employed 2 agencies also, but both the agencies could not do the work to our requirement. So this is something which is an incomplete job from my part. We'd like to finish it in the coming year. The next activity is about newsletter. So this is a QR code for the newsletter. Now, our newsletter is beautifully designed thanks to Arun, Gurleen, and Sumit, who worked hand in hand with me, and in the last 1 year, the number of times they got scolded by me, sorry, apologies, but the final outcome is so beautiful. You have everything at one place. You have Journal Club information, Journal Scan informations, you have the quiz questions. Most importantly, I'm going to show you a few more snippets of it. So it has got a lot of information which any person in the field of myeloma would like to know. So these are the various editions. They are all available on the website. You can download them and you can go through them. So this is the team that we have, and thanks to our executive committee who have been helping us in this. Now, the next part, these are the 2 awards that we did last year that we have. So this year we have around 34 people who are doing this. I'll quickly skip through this without wasting time because this is already spoken about. Yeah. The next important aspect is knowing about Indian publications. Now, all of us, we keep quoting the Western data. We require one place where the complete Indian data is compiled. So again, thanks to Sumit, we have compiled the complete publication data at one place. All the original articles which originated from India are put together, and we also figure out the best articles out of this, and we write a summary about what we feel about that article is. And where do you get this information? So this information on the website under the myeloma publication page, you have it there. And you have it divided based on the months and the years that wherein you can pull it out. And once you click one of this, on the top, you will get the top 3 articles for that particular quarter. And in the bottom, you get the information about rest all articles. And we have given the DOI as well, wherein by clicking the DOI, it will direct you to that particular article. The same information is also in the newsletter, wherein if you click it, you get the information saying that all the original research and the top articles. So they are all put together at one place, both in the newsletter as well as on the website. So this is one-stop search for the Indian data on myeloma. The next important aspect is collaboration. Now, we only develop if we collaborate, and for collaboration, this year we have collaborated with 3 organizations. One is Caregivers Asha Society. The second is with International Waldenstrom Macroglobulinemia Foundation. And the third is with Amyloidosis Support Group of India. But just I would request Dr. Arvind Mathur sir, a very senior physician from Jodhpur, who is the founding member of this particular Caregivers Asha Society, to come onto the stage and just give us a brief about your society, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I bring greetings from Caregivers Asha Society. We feel honored to be amongst the distinguished physicians and scientists taking care of this particular ailment. We have been beneficiary of all your expertise. At Caregivers Asha Society, we try to support and educate the caregivers because we feel that caregivers, they play an important role in the management of this chronic and disabling ailment. And for this particular purpose, we were fortunate to have an MOU with your esteemed organization, and we look forward for associating to support caregivers involved with the myeloma care. We were fortunate to have one CME on Waldenstrom macroglobulinemia at Jodhpur Medical College on 29th and 30th of March 2024, and had the privilege of having the first oration, Professor Asha Mathur oration, which was bestowed upon Colonel Uday, which we feel will continue with the image in the coming years also. I'd like to inform that we have developed an app for the caregivers of your patients and their relatives with the name of Care Asha, which is available both on app and Play Store, which provides information about caregiving. I again thank you all for giving us this opportunity to be associated and for bringing the cause of caregivers on to the forum. Thank you very much.
Sir, can I request Maman sir to kindly hand over a small memento? Sir, please. Yes, sir.
So, I don't know, you know Dr. Arvind Mathur only as the perpetuator of the Caregiver Society. I know him since the past 50 years. He's one of the finest physicians of Rajasthan. And he is, by his individual efforts, he set up the Geriatric Society of Rajasthan, and he has an institution of geriatric center at Jodhpur, which is exclusively because of him. So he is one of the most respected physicians of Rajasthan.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, thank you, sir. Okay, now you might say, what is the purpose? If you are already having a society, why do you need to have collaborations? It is important because in our country, the biggest problem is duplication and doing the same efforts again and again. So there are multiple societies doing the same activity. If we have hand in hand or if we join hands, the biggest benefit is we don't duplicate the same effort. So let's take if they are doing caregiver activity, then as image, whatever we require the support or our patients require the support for the caregiving, we just hand it over to them. So we look forward to the other societies or the people who are secretaries and presidents of different societies to come and join hands such that we don't replicate the effort and keep duplicating the same activity again and again under different banners. So as a country, we require one common activity. Whoever does it, that's good enough. So that is the purpose of doing all these things. So unluckily, Saurabh could not come here. Saurabh happens to be the Asia Pacific in charge, executive committee member of International Waldenstrom Macroglobulinemia Foundation. And he otherwise is a son of a Waldenstrom's patient. And we are planning to collate data, complete the national data on Waldenstrom's along with IWMF. And ASGI is again run by a patient, and we have got around 32 cases of amyloidosis here, but this is one place where we would request all those who are patients of amyloidosis. So Dr. Gurleen is taking this further as far as the amyloidosis is concerned to give your data, or donate your data to Dr. Gurleen. She is going to compile the national information, and by next year we should be able to come up with the national statistics on amyloidosis from our country. Okay, now quickly coming upon to the next factor, the image membership. Now, henceforth, from the next year conference onwards, all the faculty invitations, the student invitations will only be to the image members. You have to be a member of image for participating in the conference. These are for two reasons. One, the amount is not much. It's a very small amount. And if somebody still have a problem with this particular amount, we can waive off that amount as well. That's no issues at all. But just to make sure, because when we put it for legal purposes, for tax return purposes, and for charity of registrars charity thing, so we require the number of people that we are trying to contribute, help, and otherwise. So the first question that the government asks is, you are giving so many fellowships, but they are not image members. So it's primarily required for documentation purposes. So we request all of you to be members of image. And currently we have a desk outside, so everybody who wishes to become a member can just become a member by giving their interest or expressing their interest. This is a QR code for joining image. So by just clicking this QR code, you can become a member of image. Yeah, I'll wait for a second for the people to click the photographs. So this is where we are. So we request all of you to become members of image. Now coming to IMS. IMS is a master body under which the whole world, various other organizations, is an umbrella organization under which many organizations. So as image, we want all of you to become members of IMS also. For this purpose, Dr. Pankaj, who happens to be one of the executive members of IMS, he actually could convince the organization for bringing down the cost for the low middle income countries with support from Dr. Nikhil Munshi and the other senior office bearers of IMS to bring down the price to $50. Now, for image members, we are going to pay $10 more if you become a member. So we will reimburse that amount. And if you are not able to pay that $40, you write to us. We'll try to help you out furthermore. But we want all of you to become members of IMS. Now, why is this important? Whenever there is an international consensus, factors figuring into it, suddenly you see the number of people who can poll, who can become, who can give their opinions. We are only 11 of us there on that particular IMS membership on today's date. So your voice is not heard on an international platform. So by becoming members, our voice, our opinions, and our the way we treat our patients can be heard. So we request all of you to become members of IMS. This is a QR code for becoming IMS member. So all those who are interested in becoming IMS members can scan this QR code and become, or they can go to our website and can be redirected from there. These are the two chapters which we have spoken about, amyloidosis and Waldenstrom's. I'll not get into the detail and bore you much, but we are trying to consolidate efforts in this. We are taking baby steps, small steps, equal for sure, but we are sure that we are going to have success in the future. So for the Waldenstrom's, we have the expression of interest from Dr. Charanpreet from PGI and Dr. Vishwadeep from AIMS Nagpur. For the amyloidosis, Dr. Gurleen and Dr. Sumit are the ones who are trying to compile the information. So all those who are interested in putting your opinions or ideas together, patients together, can talk to these people. The next activity is about the website. So we have a website with all this information I have spoken on here. So you can visit it. It's updated. The latest information is available here. So, but for going into certain sections of this website, you need to become a member. You need to have that login ID and the password. But otherwise, this has all the information that we have spoken about. The next important aspect is international collaboration. We have spoken of national collaboration. We require international collaboration. And for this international collaboration, Mr. Praveen Jha, do we have those folders with us? Yeah. So, can I have the folder for the IMF and the image? So, for this, I would request Dr. Pankaj sir to come onto the stage and Dr. Vincent to come onto the stage for this meeting of IMC 2025. The two new things that we are going to do is to have a formal collaboration between IMF and Image. So, yes, sir, show the thing and you can have it. Yeah, then so, and also can you click this one? You want to stand there? Yes. Sir. Yes. This is like two prime ministers signing. This is like the G20. Thank you, Pankaj sir. Now I would request Dr. Vincent sir to kindly say a few words about IMF and what do you, your vision about the collaboration between IMF and Image.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. First of all, even before I say that, can I just make one comment?
Yes.
So, since Dr. Maman Chandy is on there, I'm a hematologist today because of Dr. Maman Chandy. And my wife Priya mentioned yesterday as well. When we were in medical school, every one of us wanted to be like him. He was the guy we wanted to aspire to be, and so I really thank you, Maman, for influencing me and so many countless people. And thank you. And as I'm here and I see there are so many experts now in the field of hematology and multiple myeloma that are here who are there to inspire the next generation. I'm sitting there, and as Uday is saying, activity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm like, I better get going on my own activities. I mean, he is just your dynamic and the way you've done things and brought Image to this level. It's really amazing. This time I'm standing here with the hat of the chairman of the board of the International Myeloma Foundation. The International Myeloma Foundation, or the IMF, was started in 1990 by Brian Dury, Susie Novis, and Brian Novis. And now this is year 35. At present, the IMF is now led by the CEO, Yelak Biru. Yelak Biru is a patient with multiple myeloma, and so now we have a patient running the organization, and he has a dynamic view of what he wants to accomplish, and it's really a pleasure to work with him. I'm here because some of the other leaders of the IMF were not able to travel, so I'm taking their place in giving this message. We really want to work closely with Image. We have, the IMF has a 4-pillared structure. We have research as one of the pillars. We collaborate worldwide. Education, both patient education and physician education. Advocacy to influence politicians and people in power to make policy changes to help us help our patients. And then finally, patient support. That is direct patient support, where a patient with myeloma can call us and get support. And we also organize formal support groups and formal meetings across the world. Through this and with representation in over 140 countries, we touch the lives of about 500,000 people around the world. The IMF has a board that oversees it, and I'm really proud that we have some top physicians of Indian origin who are on the board. The board has only like 15 people total, with 3 physicians. All 3 are of Indian origin: Dr. Nikhil Munshi, Dr. Sagar Lonial, and myself. So I think we have we are trying to do the best for multiple myeloma all over the world, and one of the areas where one of the countries where we have not worked with closely has been India. And that has been a real sad thing for me, and I want to make sure that this changes. And so we've been working well with Uday and the rest of the team of the Image Society to make sure that we can do all our activities in India and help in any way possible. So this is mostly like by working in myeloma with Myeloma Canada, with Latin America, with Asian Myeloma Network. The IMF has gained a lot of experience in how to advance all the 4 pillars: research, education, support, and advocacy. And any help you need, then we would like to. And at the same time, we also want to partner with you with various clinical trials. We have an Asia Myeloma Network, which is running clinical trials, and I think Dr. Chandramouli will be coming and telling you about some of these trials. And again, one of the countries that is not involved is India, and we want to make sure that that's changing. And we want to get clinical trials here, companies to work with us and make an impact for patients. I also chair the International Myeloma Working Group along with Dr. Nikhil Munshi, and we want to again encourage people of Indian origin, Indian physicians, to participate in the International Myeloma Working Group, because that's where some of the big consensus guidelines are made. And I know that some of the guidelines we do have no relevance to India because it's drugs that we don't have access to, or it's just not realistic here. So I think to get a global view and a global perspective is very, very important to involve India. And so I'm totally committed to this. Uday, I'm going to go back to Yelak and I'll tell him everything that happened in this meeting and ensure that we work with you. My vision is that we work together, because we want a vision where every myeloma patient in the world is reached by us and lives a life unburdened by their disease, however long it takes. Some of them may be cured. Even if they are cured, they have some issues that we have to help them deal with, and that's our vision, and that's important for us. And I'll do that not just for research and trials, but also for education, advocacy, and support as well. So thank you so much for inviting me and for this exchange. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for those words of reassurance, and we really look forward. And here comes in the point that you, by becoming member of Image and IMS, we all can work together and then in turn work with the international agencies as a common group or a one group. Okay, next, as Sajesh mentioned, so as one branch of IMF, we have Asian Myeloma Network, and for the AMN, we have here Dr. Chandramouli, who is going to do the exchange on behalf of AMN. So I request Dr. Chandramali to kindly come onto the stage. I also request Pankaj sir back on the stage, please. Yes.
So where do we have access to International Monetary Fund now?
Before you ask that question, Dr. Vincent left. So you need to tell someone.
So, thank you, Pankaj sir. Thank you, Dr. Chandramali. Dr. Chandramali, I will request you to kindly enlighten the people with the work that the AMN is doing and the various trials wherein people can actually come and participate or collaborate with you people.
Thank you, Uday. That's a very tough task to follow, but I'm here in my capacity as a fundamental Asian Myeloma Network member, as a recently appointed co-chair for the Clinical Trial Committee, and somebody who is enthusiastic in batting for the region, as in part of clinical trials as well as data collection for the region. So you've already heard Vincent talk about IMF. I don't think I can add anything more than what Vincent has already mentioned. So going back to the history of AMN, AMN was really a group of people that you see in this photograph that was formed as a concept when IMF came to Asia back in 2011, with literally 5 or 6 countries and regions represented. And they thought, why not come together with countries who already have some degree of standing in terms of data or database already available for myeloma patients, and some scientific work that has been done. And that is how really the Asian Myeloma Network came into being in 2011, and as it happens in a meeting in Singapore. But within 18 months, they were able to put together the epidemiology of myeloma in Asia, and many of the myths, as Uday was mentioning, were burst by actually reading the data of epidemiology of myeloma in Asia rather than just having kind of rumors spread based on anecdotal data. And one of our key aspirations at the time was actually to run clinical trials, and I'll come back to that about it in a minute. But since then, since the inception, with the number of people you saw in the photograph, there has been a steady increase, conscious increase in number of members who participate in the Asian Myeloma Network. And I would really want to offer this opportunity on behalf of Dan Navid, who should have been really giving this talk, but I'm actually doing this on his behalf. We really want members from India, now that India is officially part of Asian Myeloma Network, to be volunteered into the network. And what it does give them is the ability to participate in trials, ability to participate in database studies, as well as perhaps put forward projects, put forward guidelines, and additional help that as a society Asian Myeloma Network can offer them. The focus of the work that AMN has been doing in the past has been kind of artificially or arbitrarily defined, with the myeloma database work being driven by Korea, the clinical trial work and guidelines work driven out of the headquarters in Singapore, physician-led training by China, and the diagnosis in smoldering myeloma by Japan. But this doesn't have to be. Anybody can pretty much propose a project. Over the years, we have tried to organize ourselves into committees. So we currently have an executive committee, and this is one committee that I would really want to have a representation from Asia, if that is from India, if that is possible. We also have an international advisory committee, which has recently changed. We used to have Dr. Horosu from France, who's, I believe, being replaced by Dr. Mohammed Moti. Dr. Andrew Spencer, he's recently joined the International Advisory Committee, as well as Dr. Tom Martin from UCSF. We also have a program committee who does the manage all the program-related activities, which I'll come to in a minute. We have clinical trial committee, which I will also mention, and virtual tissue bank committee, which Uday and Pankaj probably know a little bit more about, is a concept that Professor Chung Wee Ju had established, wherein we need tissues with the kind of work that Nikhil mentioned earlier on. Without tissue, we can hardly do any of the work that is required from the research side. So when a developing country like India has the ability to do all these research work, the guidance that can come from another country or region where they have already done the work, they can offer the guidance as to what are the samples that are required at what time points, where do we keep these samples, how do these samples stored, and if somebody else comes up with an idea of what to do, you have the ability to participate. We don't always need to ship samples from one country to another. The work can be done locally, and the data can be shared so that larger number of data sets can be generated using this. And then finally, recently, awards committee has been convened to award one or two individuals who have an outstanding contribution in the field of myeloma from Asia on a year-on-year basis. And as I mentioned, over the last few years, we've been expanding memberships. We can't do it all of a sudden. We should have a steady, healthy growth of members on a year-on-year basis. We don't want to make the membership too unwieldily large, then it becomes difficult to organize the summits. And in any way, hematology and myeloma, we have lots of meetings interspersed throughout the year. So we don't want to make it another big meeting. We like to have a reasonably lean kind of meeting where we can actually collaborate, we can generate ideas and participate and actually enhance the working together. We've been having outreach with newer areas in other regions as well. For example, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia have all joined within the last few years. And we're also trying to work around some of the work arrangements that we've been having. One of the three important meetings that we organize annually is the annual AMN Summit. This has been going on for the last 5 years, and this year is going to be on this date in Nagoya, and Japan. Last year was held in Seoul, and the year before was actually in Singapore. This summit brings together the myeloma doctors from within the region, where we have an ability to interact and generate ideas. We follow the model that is fairly similar to the International Myeloma Working Group. So we have dedicated work groups in the afternoon. We choose the topics, and we have closed group meetings to generate ideas, guidelines. There have been guidelines that have come out of these work groups, and it's a very, I would think, very valuable and productive meeting. We also have combined master classes, which is geared towards more junior members. So we have lots of international and national experts from Asia who have the ability to educate juniors. So we want to encourage junior cadre physicians with hematologists with interest to develop more interest in myeloma and become myeloma specialists. So this masterclass meeting is geared toward that, and it's a full 1.5-day program, even complete with an examination at the end of that. And more recently, we've also had patient forums organized where there are various patient support groups representing each and every country and region. So IMF has been instrumental in bringing all these patient support groups together. And it was fantastic. I make it a point to attend these patient forums when we have it together with the summit, where different patient support groups are all given different tables, and they come and present the activity that they have done in the preceding year. And that has been very valuable learning from other patient societies. There are some countries in different stages of development compared to others. Some have been having long-running patient support groups, so one country can learn from another. So that's been a very strong feedback, positive feedback from the patients from that meeting. And finally, something that is close to my heart, which is the AMN run clinical trials. Our main objectives have been, because you see very skewed representation in global company-led trials, so we want to bat for Asian patients' inclusion in the clinical trials, bring those trials to Asia, establish Asian data, study combinations which are probably more relevant for our populations, as well as establish Asia as a partner for industry in collaborative trials, and elevate overall the standing of myeloma research in Asia. So we do have clinical trial committee, and representatives from each and every country and region of the AMN member countries. And I once again would like to have an Indian representation in this committee as well. The point of this would be to discuss once, probably every 4 months or 6 months even sometimes, when there is a trial idea or a project that comes to mind, to discuss. But more importantly, for trials that are already running, we would want to identify prospective, quality trial sites with flush with their capabilities that we are aware of, so that if somebody comes with an idea, we know which are the trial sites which can manage to get patients into those particular trials. And perhaps we can discuss more of these, in discussions outside. So this is just an illustration of what trials we've been able to do in the limited time that we have had, bearing in mind we've had about 3 years wasted during COVID, but not really wasted. We've run many of these clinical trials all through COVID. And many of these clinical trials have completed, they've been published, and there are a few that are running and a few that I'm still working on, hopefully that can see the light with time. It has not been an easy journey. It has had a lot of challenges, not least because across from Southeast Asia, every country and region has its own peculiarities when it comes to drug approvals, when it comes to legal matters, when it comes to drug shipping, management, all the way to how we even jokingly say in our AMN Summit, the official language of the AMN Summit is broken English. Sometimes we can't understand each other when we just talk English. So there's been a lot of challenges, but there's been a lot of education and enriching experience as well, I would say, in running trials across all these countries. What I see as future considerations, we would really like to establish a roster of trial sites. We've had some information that has already been collected with individual capabilities of the trial sites and the kind of support that they need. We would like to augment. So Singapore Clinical Research Institute is a Ministry of Health undertaking that has been able to provide us support for Asian Myeloma Network as an academic CRO. Obviously, the costs are much cheaper when it is funded by the government, but they have also some limitations in terms of manpower and some other aspects. So we would really like to increase and augment and enhance their support. We would like to have formal, so far the principal investigators who have led the trials have done pretty much all the work in terms of templates, DSMB and SOPs and things like that. So we'd like to create formal SOPs for all this. Partnerships with vendors, because IMF does not in itself function as an organization which is able to do sample shipment, for example, to drug management, and individual hospitals have been doing it. So we would like to really enter into long-term partnerships probably with vendors who can help us do that. And one of the key reasons why we are here is to collaborate with other academic collaborative groups. So in addition to kind of questions that the large-scale phase 3 trials have been doing and answering, we really need academic answers to some of these questions, which can only come from collaborative groups. And therein lies the importance of having groups like IMAGE, groups like AMN, and we would like to really partner with these kind of academic groups so that we can together grow and do better trials. Platform trials, trials using approved drugs, stopping early trials, for example, bispecific antibodies. Why do we need to give week after week? These are kind of probably a low-lying fruit kind of trials that we could do as an academic trial. And with that, I would like to thank and express my gratitude on behalf of all the Asian Myeloma Network members, Prof. Chung and Dan and Lisa from IMF. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Chandamali, for those words of encouragement. And definitely, many people would be thinking of collaborating. It's a good opportunity to collaborate with the Asian group and to take forward the various clinical trials, which should finally benefit our patients. The last two activities, I'm not going to take much before I hand over the stage to the president. So, the most important motto that we had was to have Indian position statements and consensus guidelines which are applicable to our country. And if we look at IMWG, NCC, and whatever guidelines you look at, they are not meant for us, we cannot apply all of them to our situations. Keeping this in mind, we this year have come up with 2 consensus guidelines, and we are planning to bring more in the near future. But for this, I would request Velu sir and Dr. Tapan sir to kindly come onto the stage in the center and inaugurate the first consensus guidelines and the second consensus guidelines, please. So. So this was created by Image members, and we had Delphi consensus, round 1, round 2. The last round, the third round, which is vetting by the executive committee, is still pending, but we have gone ahead with 2 guidelines. One is newly diagnosed multiple myeloma, and second is infections in myeloma. So for the first one, I would request Tapan sir to kindly inaugurate. Lower button. So this is the clinical practice guidelines for diagnosis, initial treatment and maintenance therapy for newly diagnosed multiple myeloma, a modified Delphi consensus statement. And for the second one, I would request Velu sir. This is for prevention and management of infections in myeloma in South Asian countries. So, thank you sir. So these are the 2 Delphi consensus guidelines which we have come up with. They have been vetted, and thanks to our international community members, they are not here currently, but we have also incorporated the South and Southeast Asian country representatives into this. So they said, rather than after they perusing the document, they said once this document is so well made and in a proper fashion, in a scientific fashion, it should be applied to all the South and Southeast Asian countries. So rather than just for India, it was then modified on the advised by the international community into South Asian countries. So these guidelines are applicable for Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Maldives and Sri Lanka together. So that's where we are. For this, we would like to thank the J&J, the Johnson & Johnson, for the educational grant, which was purely extrinsic support. They have not been allowed to go through the documents or involve in any form of interference into the Delphi consensus or in giving opinions. So we thank them for the educational grant. And the last but one activity. So the next is the patient education. For this, I would request the Maman sir to come onto the stage, and also the representative for J&J. We have come out with a compendium or a booklet for patient education in a pictorial format, wherein the complete, all the parts for whatever a patient requires, a myeloma patient requires, everything has been put up in a booklet format. So this was again brought out with the help of J&J. So I would request Maman sir to kindly inaugurate this booklet. Would you like to say a few words about the booklet?
So first and foremost, on behalf of Johnson & Johnson, I would like to thank the Image Society, especially Dr. Pankaj Malhotra and Dr. Uday, for collaborating on this important initiative. This is a very important milestone for us, and as we continue to support through this initiative a better understanding of the disease and the treatment options that would become available, that are available for patients, which would help them make an informed choice on their treatment. So thank you, sir, for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. But we are waiting for this to be converted into 18 languages, and we expect that that would also be done by the J&J, just not in English. So with that, we come to the last part, that is fellowships and awards for the students. So we have multiple fellowships and awards which are there in the offering for any student of the junior faculty that we have here in different names, in different formats. And also we are going to support, we have been supporting the DM students for the thesis on myeloma, the PG students for the thesis on myeloma, and undergraduates if they want to do something on myeloma at different levels. So you just have to say that this is a thesis that we are planning to do in the field of plasma cell dyscrasias. Write it to us. We'll try to help you out both financially as well as with the technical expertise if required, and also for the statistical part and writing it. So you just need to write to us, but at the end of your thesis, you just need to acknowledge. That's all we require. But what we want is students in the hematology and oncology field should take more and more thesis and more research in the field of myeloma or the plasma cell dyscrasias. In the last 6 to 7 years, we have spent 52 lakh rupees. I would not say spent, we have invested, or I would say we have been we could successfully help students and fellows and faculty for various initiatives that they have, and this would be the largest in the country in any format, giving 52 lakh rupees in 6 years. But now comes the small asterisks or the conditions. Henceforth, we are going to have a small grid system or a credit score system. I'll not get into the details of it. They will be uploaded after the executive committee vets it, and it will be put on the website. But primarily what we are looking at is, we have been sponsoring students. They go abroad, they do their fellowships, they do their observerships, they come back, then they stop working in the field of myeloma. We don't want that to happen. We want you to continue or pursue the same. Second, if you have some projects or ideas, people have taken money, they have started, but for whatever reason, there was a break in between, please continue that. If you are not able to pursue, come back to us. We'll try to help you how to do it, how to take it forward. We have got top institutes, INIs, wherein we have our own executive committee members who can help you out to take it further. So please don't stop your efforts halfway through. Try to complete your journey, and we are here to handhold you to complete your journey. These are the various people in the last year who were awarded by various awards, prizes, and other things. And I would just say, this is just broadly about, just participate in the journal clubs, you get some credit hours, participate in the quizzes, write a commentary, it's just 175 words. It's good for you also. You go through the article, you try to summarize it into 175 words, and thereafter you bring it forward. So it helps you to gain or understand about what's happening as far as the latest thing is concerned. So these are the various credit points that we are going to have. We are going to comment about it on our website. You can go through it. With this, I would like to hand over the stage for the way forward as far as the image is concerned to Dr. Pankaj Malhotra, sir, the President, for the presidential address and the way forward. Thank you, sir.
So I will not take too much of time. So Dr. Maman Chandi, General Nair, Dr. Tapan Sekia, Dr. Reena Nair, and my esteemed colleagues, friends, and well-wishers. So, as Uday said, when we started this journey, alongside our dedicated secretary and dynamic secretary Uday, the task of establishing image felt both daunting and exhilarating. But we were driven by the shared vision to create a platform that would improve research, awareness, and clinical guidelines for myeloma and related disorders in India. So together we worked tirelessly to lay the foundation of this organization, knowing that our efforts were not just for today, but for the generations of physicians, researchers, and most importantly, patients who would benefit from our endeavors. So over the years, image has grown beyond what we had initially envisioned. We have witnessed remarkable collaboration, the development of impactful research, and the creation of platforms that have given a voice to patients and caregivers alike. Our mission to enhance the understanding and management of myeloma in India has not only gained momentum, but has also inspired many to contribute meaningfully to the field. The success of IMAGE is the collective achievement of a team of passionate and dedicated professionals who believed in the cause and worked relentlessly to make IMAGE what it is today. I am deeply grateful to all of you for your unwavering support and guidance. So one of the things is what is the way forward for IMAGE and for the SAARC nations. So SAARC, many of you who are actually new, it is South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, which was founded in 1985. And the goal was to promote economic, social, technological, and cultural development in the region. And these are the SAARC countries. It's actually constitute 1/5 of world population, close to 21% or so. And it is actually larger than the European Union in terms of area and population. So we have actually similar socio-economic structure, culture, healthcare structure, underdiagnosis and delayed diagnosis are quite common, and we all have resource constraints also. This is one of the paper which has looked at the epidemiology and treatment options of multiple myeloma in Asia, and This is actually the other countries of Asia, the Southeast or Eastern Asian countries, where the prevalence on the incidence of myeloma is close to 1% or so, more than 1% or so. So myeloma management, if you look at these SAARC countries, India is still leading in diagnostic and treatment facility, but faces challenges with rural access and affordability. Pakistan and Bangladesh, there is growing awareness, but limited infrastructure for advanced myeloma care. Sri Lanka focus on early detection through national healthcare programs, but yet advanced treatment options remain limited. Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives and Afghanistan, they are dependent on the neighboring countries for specialized care, lack of comprehensive myeloma and management system. So this is one of the paper which Celine has presented and who got the award also. The treatment accessibility, availability and healthcare cost for multiple myeloma in South Asian countries, where actually, if you look at the presenting symptoms, those are, with the survey we have found out, the renal failure we always believe is the, as opposed to what you see in the West, 15-20%, here we see more than 30% or between 30 to 40% or so. So how did we approach the South Asian people? We searched the publication from SAARC nations in the PubMed, Google searched the first and the last author, took help of our international faculty like Shachi and Saad Usmani. National colleague Uday did a lot of work, and we emailed them and the purpose of collaboration, and the physician who agreed sent them the questionnaire on drug availability, healthcare accessibility and the cost. And then the results were compiled and presented today, as I said before, by Celine. These are the SAARC physicians we were able to get in touch. Buddhika Somavardhana from National Cancer Institute, Sri Lanka, Sinani Williams, Nepal, Dr. Ajay Jha, who is sitting in the audience, Dr. Bishesh Podyal, from Pakistan, Dr. Zeba Aziz and Dr. Muhammad Iyaz Mir, from Bangladesh, Dr. Abu Saleh and Dr. Amin Lutful Kabir, and from Myanmar, Dr. I.I. Gai, Maldives, Dr. Hassan Junai, Bhutan, Dr. Thinle Dorji. So these were the people who we were able to contact, and they actually helped us in completing the survey. So the recommendations or the consensus statements which we are preparing through the image, we don't want India specific. All these countries face the same problem, so we want them to be SAARC specific or actually low and middle income country specific kind of our recommendations. And if you look at the Asian developing countries, so these are all the the countries which we want to reach through the image. So our vision is actually the clinical trials, the pharma sponsored, the investigator sponsored, or we would like image sponsored clinical trials. Like simply, we know that the standard VRD sometimes you are not able to give. The dose of lenalidomide 25 milligrams sometimes you are not able to give. So, giving a VRD light comparing with the standard VRD, which is there in the clinical trials or used in the West. Doublet instead of triplet. Yesterday, Dr. Shah from Ahmedabad told me, when you take the name of a transplant, most people back off. They don't go for says, no, transplant is a very intensive procedure, and they never go for a transplant. So can we change the name of transplant and just state something else so that we are able to offer this form of therapy, which is very effective form of therapy to patients. Dose of Faspro, we all know that, it is 1800 milligram, whereas our patients, if you look at their body weight and other things, this will be something close to 1000 or 1200 or 1300, but we are using 1800. So whether somebody can find out whether this dose is, we are overdosing our patients. Then bispecifics are there in the market now, and I think in most of the centers who are using bispecific, they are sharing the one vial with the other patient. So they are enrolling 2 patients at a given time, if there is a possibility, so that they can share they are costly drugs and you can share the vial. Cost of drugs, cost of test, choosing wisely campaign of image, what are the good things, like yesterday we discussed about, instead of giving zoledronic acid monthly to all the patients, we can actually, once the patient is into remission, we can make it 3 monthly or 4 monthly, instead of giving it monthly continuously. Instead of giving denosumab we can, cut down on denosumab, dose of denosumab when the patient has renal failure. QL-based study in patients group myeloma, friends, they are sitting here. So, we have requested Dr. Pranta Chakravarti to take care of the quality of life studies to be done in the patients group, which are just questionnaire-based kind of a survey. And then myeloma friends, not only in India, but they can establish those similar branches in the SAARC nations to improve the patient-related outcome there. We would also like to make the registry of rare plasma disorders like POEMS. Auditing, as has already been said, auditing of the data entry is very important. And we also want the Image Research and Data Monitoring Committee issue a certificate kind of a course for myeloma-related data entry. People who are entering the data, we know once they are trained, they leave. So we can issue a certificate course. Dr. Ashutosh, I'm not sure whether he's sitting in the audience, but he has agreed to, conduct this virtual tumor board on amyloidosis once in 2 months or once in 3 months. Any patient of amyloidosis they want to discuss, he has agreed to be borne part. Infections, management of latent tuberculosis. If you see the guidelines in the West, they say treat the latent tuberculosis. We don't treat that. But what are the guidelines here? Can we make some guidelines? Exchange of fellows, junior faculty, quiz journal club presentation by the SAARC faculty. So science knows no boundaries. We all know about that. As myeloma physician expert, our mission is incomplete if even one patient anywhere in the world is left without hope or access to optimal care. And hence true success lies in ensuring every myeloma patient, regardless of geography, benefits from the advancement we achieve together. So today, as I stand before you, I am filled with a sense of gratitude, pride, and a tinge of nostalgia. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve as the president of the Indian Myeloma Academic Group since its inception in 2018. And I extend my heartfelt thanks to all the Board of Trustees for placing their trust in me and granting me the opportunity to lead this pioneer initiative. Now, as I prepare to hand over the mantle of leadership to Lieutenant General Velu Nayar, I am confident that Image will continue to thrive and evolve under the new stewardship. Leadership transitions are a vital part of any organization's growth, and I trust that the incoming President, Lieutenant General Velu Nayar, will bring fresh ideas and renewed energy to take Image to greater heights. While my role as President concludes today, my commitment to Image and its mission remains steadfast. I pledge my continued support to this organization and will always be available to contribute in whatever capacity is required. I want to make a special mention of Uday, the Secretary of Image, but more importantly, my esteemed colleague and indispensable partner in this journey. Our collaboration has often felt like the ionic music directors, Lakshmikant Pyarelal or Kalyanji Anandji, working in perfect harmony. Together we have not only dreamed big, but also nurtured those dreams into realities. And Uday's remarkable ability, which you have seen, to execute the ideas with precision and unwavering dedication has been a cornerstone of Image success. And I am profoundly grateful for his exceptional contribution as Secretary. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our international faculty, whose unwavering support, both directly and indirectly, across various national and international platforms have been invaluable. A special mention goes to Dr. Shaji Kumar for his exceptional contributions. To my successor, I convey my warmest congratulations and best wishes. I am confident that under your leadership, General Nair, Image will embark on a new chapter of excellence and growth. Let us continue to work together, driven by the same passion and purpose that brought us here. Together we can and will make a lasting impact in the fight against myeloma. Thank you all for your trust, support, and encouragement throughout my tenure. Now I hand over back stage to Uday for presenting rest of the reports. Thank you.
I would request Pankaj sir to kindly stay on the stage. Yes, it's extremely nostalgic, sir, and emotional as well for both of us, because I used to ruin sir's time every day night from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and both of us spouses knew that at this time the phone call is between Pankaj sir to Uday or Uday to Pankaj sir and vice versa. So thank you, sir, for bearing me for so long. So, but yes, leaving me halfway through is not okay. You should have also allowed me to resign simultaneously. So, but I think it's an honor to have worked with you, sir, my teacher, my mentor in this field, who has introduced me to this field of myeloma. Otherwise, I would have actually done some other part of hematology. So, to say thanks on behalf of Executive Committee, I request all the Executive Committee members to kindly come on the stage for felicitating our first president of Indian Myeloma Academic Group. And I would request a standing ovation from the complete group for the amount of work sir has done for bringing image to this stage. Can I have the Executive Committee members to come on to the stage, please? Reena ma'am, Hari Menon sir, Joseph Jones sir, Sadashivudu sir, Dr. Naveen Khatri sir. Yeah, please, can you please kindly sit down, please? Thank you. Okay, can I request the Tapan sir, the senior most member, to kindly hand over a bouquet to Pankaj sir? I would request the president-elect to kindly felicitate sir with a shawl. Pankaj sir, this has been specially chosen by Reena ma'am for you. This is the past president with the president, new president. So, can we have a group photograph? Yeah, thank you. Nini. So the last 3 minutes, I'll not take longer than this. So I would like to thank the Executive Committee for helping us to bring image to this stage. So what Pankaj sir said, I will echo the sentiments, saying that this would not have been possible by one person or one individual or a group of individuals. It's that everybody putting together their ideas, giving it a finesse, fine-tuning them, and finally whatever we are able to do. But yes, the job is still half done. We have a huge way to go ahead, as I showed in his vision. So we want to achieve newer heights in the future. So for this, we also have from this year, Dr. Hari Menon sir as the Joint Secretary of Image. Hari sir? Okay. So we welcome Hari sir on board as a Joint Secretary. We have been actually trying hard to get the young blood into the stream, and wherein we have chosen actually Dr. Sumit Meg, Dr. Arun and Dr. Gurleen, and we have been trying to train them. We are faced with a small legal hurdle wherein we have to just clear that before we induct you into the family. So you have to bear with us for a few months more, but we want you to be on board. They have been really helping us out for the last few years. So I would request Velu sir to kindly felicitate these 3 people who have been actually been a backbone to Image. So Sumit, Gurleen and Arun, please come onto the stage. She manage everyone, otherwise she will be maximum work. I would also request Velu sir to hand over a small memento and say a few words for the way the conference, this particular Calcutta conference has been organized by Reena ma'am and Dr. Jeevan along with Colonel Deepak Mishra and Mayur Parihar.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm actually delighted to be here and also to take part with a little bigger role as a part of Image. And firstly, let me start by congratulating Team TMC, led by none other than Dr. Reena Nair, ably assisted by her junior colleagues, Jeevan, Arjit, and of course, your from the pathology side, my old dear friend, Colonel Deepak Mishra, and his team, and how you have worked so cohesively as a team. I've been watching since 4 months, you've been so active, yet the lady's touch of Dr. Reena was always visible. Soft, yet firm. So, and decisions were immediate. So I also self-invited myself onto the WhatsApp group. So it was fun watching the appeals, the disposals, and the aftermath. So that happened till we all arrived. So I must congratulate you on a very well run and very warm hospitality. And I must say the venue itself is so welcoming. And you put it all together so well that each one feels.
That is Dr. Maman.
I'm just coming to that. So, she's plucked my punchline. So a quick decision. So Dr. Maman has actually, started this from the grassroots as a greenfield project. I was lucky to come in and out in various capacities, but I have been seeing this from, I think, 2011, sir? 11, 12? Yes. And various things were coming up. I saw this auditorium, which was a baby. He wanted to see it fructify. I saw it with, half cement, half things being made. But I must congratulate you, sir, for having done the near impossible when we saw it. And why I say impossible is in the shortest possible time, it hit the deck running. It was working. And he had all the people, the specialty groups in place. And suddenly, Calcutta was taken by a storm. I was here from 1998 to 2002 in Alipur in the command hospital. There was no hematology here except some grassroots, Dr. Utpal Chaudhary, Dr. Malai Ghosh. There were a few of the seniors who brought hematology to the city of Kolkata. It needed much more. And they promoted it over the years. But TMC coming gave a fillip to the whole thing, to the transplant program, to a modernized way of hematology in a country. It became a forerunner. And as usual, Dr. Maman's qualities are the highest, and it was no different here. So even today, many in this audience have been taught by him, mentored by him, tutored by him, and we are the fortunate ones who actually have gone through his hands. And I'd like to thank you, sir, for all that you've done for all of us. And I think your team has actually done what you have trained them for. And so the conference has been so far a huge success, and I can see it ending as one of the best that we've had. And the contents, no scientific program can be, garlanded just because of the infrastructure and the hospitality alone. The contents of the scientific program is actually what makes it succeed. And you'll agree with me, it was an academic bonanza. And we've had the best of the best, teachers of the trainers, and they gave us what is happening in the contemporary world, all within 72 hours, less than 72 hours, which I think I must thank you all for having made this possible. You can invite anybody. For them to ultimately come and deliver and be with you till the end is great. And I was wondering how you'll run it from 9 to 8, and it happened. And I saw most of you sitting, and that can only happen how you distribute your good speakers, how you distribute your good topics, and I can see you all have done your homework very well. So that's about the conference, and I wish Neeraj, the next conference, all the very best, and I'm sure Amrita being what it is, it'll be no less. Uday, I don't have to say anything about him. From undergraduate days to MD days, he was a tutor with us. I must say, as a teacher, I've had the pleasure to work with him. And he has taught me many things. And, we worked in the army field and high altitude in various fora. And his energy is infectious. I thought I had a lot of energy till I met him. So it is indeed infectious. And even now, when we speak, there's a lot of electrostatic sparks which go up. And I think that's what drives us. And you need that. And I'm so happy to see the younger blood being inducted. And that is the need of the hour. We have a healthy mix of seniors, peers, and the junior lot. And I would definitely encourage more and more participation than what we have seen. Encourage the membership drive. We certainly need to be members because their society is, the strength of the society is its members. And I think we certainly need to drive this. And I'll just say that we in the National Academy, which is one of the top academies of the country, which is an independent autonomous body under the Ministry of Health, has taken up the undergraduate program driving as something called the Navigate CME. And there are about 140 medical colleges already participating. I'm going to take this, image program, the curriculum, and we're going to have a committee for the UG especially, but I'm a firm believer that it all starts there. You have to drive the UG. We always leave them out. And I know that, you finish MBBS knowing only a little bit of iron deficiency, megaloblastic, and maybe hemolytic anemia. And, that is not enough today. And I'm so happy to see the UG participation in international conferences. And I must say that to move on, Pankaj has left. It's not an easy job to emulate because he has worked very hard. Incessantly, he has been available to Image. We have been participating, but he's really put in hard work. I will try my best to fit into his shoe and to continue the work that Pankaj has left for us. And we must get a few collaborative trials to put in things which are easily doable, deliverable, and are lacking, conspicuous by its absence in our country. And we've identified a few areas, and the executive committee is going to meet more often, and I'm sure we can formulate this, take the volunteer institutions, private, public, and hybrid, and actually get them on board, and we actually can make a success of it. With that, I won't take any more of your time. Till we meet again, I hope to interact with you all more often. I would like to thank each one of you, starting with Dr. Reena, all the trustees, and all the people and the delegates attend here. And a special thanks to you, Uday. Thank you. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
So with that, we come to the end of the supposedly inaugural session. But thanks a lot for bearing us through for the last 1.5, 2 hours. But this is an important component for people to understand what it is, what are we trying to do, and to get ideas. So with that, I thank Reena ma'am, Deepak Mishra sir, Maman sir, the team TMC, Jeevan, Mayur, for hosting us in the best possible way, ma'am. And thanks to your leadership. And despite you being so senior, you always paid an ear to us, and you could hear out us and listen to the ideas and put them into place. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. So with that, tea break, ma'am. So we all break for the tea and assemble here back at in 15 minutes. So we all come back in 15 minutes. Jai Hind.
About the multiple myelomas, different aspects, and the morning Dr. Nikhil Munsil talked a lot about MGUS also and the transition from MGUS to myeloma. Now we have a lot of other disorder which are related disorder to plasmacytoid dyscrasias, and which many times causes a dilemma for us to diagnose whether we are going to myeloma or whether not, when to intervene. So let us go for this discussion.
So first of all, I would like to invite our first distinguished speaker, Dr. Rajan Duggal, who is a director and HOD in Department of Histopathology and Cytopathology in BLK Max Hospital. He's going to speak on making pathological classification of MGRS easy for us.
Thank image organizers, and special thanks to Colonel Deepak Mishra and Dr. Mayur Parihar for inviting me for this. So I'll be talking on making pathological classification of MGRS easy. I know I am the only renal pathologist who is sitting among clinical hematologists, hematopathologists, molecular genetics, cytogenetics. So we make diagnosis only on the morphology. We have certain few stains, immunohistochemical stains, which helps us. And the most important thing is immunofluorescence. And for confirmation, we do electron microscopy in selected cases. So it will be a case-based presentation. I don't want to complicate these things, but I'll start with what is called as a myeloma defining event. So we know about this thing that kidney lesions, kidney disease is a frequent complication of monoclonal gammopathies that manifests with wide range of renal lesions, and patterns are mostly determined by the physicochemical characteristics of the pathogenic monoclonal immunoglobulins. So if the monoclonal immunoglobulin is deposited in the glomerular compartment in the glomerulus, then these patients will have proteinuria. Now if the same immunoglobulin is deposited in the tubular interstitial compartment, that means in the tubules, these patients will have raised serum creatinine because they will present with cast nephropathy. So renal disease can complicate previously diagnosed clonal B-cell disorder or maybe initial manifestation of a hematological disease. There are two main categories of these B-cell or plasma cell clone causing abnormalities. There is one category in which there is a large B-cell clone. For example, there is a patient with a diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. Now he develops proteinuria and there is membranous glomerulopathy on biopsy, and we are able to demonstrate there is kappa or lambda restriction. That is not MGRS. For an MGRS, it has to be a very tiny clone. The clone is so small that it is picked up only on the kidney biopsy. You will not see in the serum in majority of the times, but which all situations you will find abnormalities in the serum-free light chain assays, that also I will tell you. So by definition, this is a WHO definition for monoclonal gammopathy of renal significance. It is a plasma cell or B-cell neoplasm that does not meet the accepted criteria for malignancy or the initiation of treatment, but secretes a monoclonal immunoglobulin or immunoglobulin fragment, which results only in kidney injury. So when we look at kidney biopsy, we look at three compartments: glomerular compartment, tubular interstitial compartment, and the vascular compartment. So we'll start with the first case. This is a myeloma defining event, and this is not MGRS. So this was a renal transplant recipient, a known case of diabetic nephropathy. See, many times in our population, patients have long-standing diabetes for last 20 years. Now they have raised serum creatinine, they are labeled as chronic kidney disease. And sometimes they are transplanted without getting serum electrophoresis and all that stuff. So in this case, this patient was labeled as diabetic nephropathy because the duration of diabetes was for 25 years. This patient had retinopathy also, but there was rise in serum creatinine, so they thought it is possibly related to diabetic nephropathy, and they didn't do biopsy. This patient was planned for transplant, and transplant was done, and after 1 month, this patient has graft dysfunction. So if you look at this kidney biopsy, there is some infiltrate. You can see these blue cells here, so that means there is some infiltrate in this biopsy. And this is a PS stain. See, renal pathologists, we are very fond of colorful kind of stains. So we have a lot of stains what we do. So if you look at this PS stain, the PS stain shows that there is these are casts which are PS negative. So when I say PS negative or weakly PS positive, so what I mean is, and there are fractures in these casts. You can see cracks within these casts. And there is an epithelial reaction. So whenever the tubular epithelial cells, they react to some material, that means that material is not endogenous material. It is not TAM phosphoprotein. This is an exogenous material. And majority of the times, when you see exogenous material in the tubules, which is PS negative or PS weakly positive, majority of the times it is cast nephropathy. These are abnormal casts, but you have to prove it. So by doing immunofluorescence, if we demonstrate that there is light chain restriction. For example, kappa is negative and lambda is 3+. In addition, you can see some staining along the tubular basement membrane. So this component suggests it is a cast nephropathy, lambda restricted, and presence of the linear staining along the tubular basement membrane suggests that there is a component of early light chain deposition disease also. And this is a low magnification which further highlights kappa is 3+ and lambda is absolutely negative. So this is a case of cast nephropathy with coexistent light chain deposition disease. So after this case, now this happened in Medanta, this was in 2011, and then the protocol was formed that all the patients who are labeled as diabetic nephropathy or hypertensive nephrosclerosis, before you take these patients for transplant, at least do serum electrophoresis, do serum free light chain assays. And they were able to pick up good number of cases which are wrongly labeled as diabetic nephropathy. So what the problem is, the moment you transplant these patients, within 1 month, they will present with graft dysfunction. So come to the next case. 62, a female, no previous comorbidities, any elderly patient who present with nephrotic syndrome, and it is wrongly labeled as minimal change disease. We need to investigate those patients for early amyloidosis also. Like in this patient had 62, a male with significant proteinuria. So this is just for comparison. This is a normal glomerulus PS stain, and you just compare the present case shows presence of PS negative material which is deposited in the mesangium. This is a silver stain. Silver stain shows that this material is also silver negative. The material is deposited along the blood vessels also. It is congophilic. And it is showing Applegain birefringence. So that means it is amyloidosis. But now we need to prove whether it is primary amyloid or secondary amyloid. We do the stain serum amyloid associated protein, which comes positive in post-inflammatory amyloidosis. So serum amyloid associated protein is negative. So the next step is we need to demonstrate that there is a light chain restriction. When we do kappa lambda, you can see along the vessels, lambda is staining. In the glomerulus, lambda is there, but there is no staining for kappa. So that means it is amyloidosis, which is affecting the glomerular as well as the vascular compartment. Sometimes the amyloid is very early, and it can be missed on routine microscopy, light microscopy, like in this case. This patient also, a known case, he presented with nephrotic syndrome and absolutely normal morphology. On a routine morphology, you label this as this is a minimal change disease. There is just no amyloid there. So this case came for a referral, and there are good number of centers still, good corporate hospitals also, they don't do kappa lambda. They say that we will decide after looking at the morphology whether kappa lambda is required on this biopsy or not required. So in this case, everything was done, but kappa lambda was not done. And you know, histopathologists, they are very fond of writing that it is consistent with minimal change disease, and their work is done when they say, please correlate clinically. So they feel we have done our job. So even the nephrologist, he said that, okay, this patient has nephrotic syndrome, I'll give 6 weeks steroid therapy. As we know, in a case of MCD, minimal change disease, if you give a 6-week steroid therapy, the proteinuria will resolve within 6 weeks. In elderly patient, it takes little bit more time. But in young patient, within 6 weeks, everything gets resolved. But in this, the proteinuria progressed from 3.8 gram to 5 gram. And what was missing in this case was actually the light chain immunofluorescence, which was not done. So it was light chain immunofluorescence which was missing in this case. And we again reviewed this biopsy. It showed a normal morphology. We did paraffin immunofluorescence. That means we don't have fresh tissue, kidney tissue. So on the paraffin block, we did immunofluorescence, and we were able to demonstrate that there was one glomerulus which was showing kappa staining, but there was no lambda staining. And there was another glomerulus which showed significant amount of kappa deposition in the glomerular capillary loops, which was not picked up on morphology. So these are the cases of early amyloidosis. So any elderly patient with nephrotic syndrome, and you have given 6 weeks of steroid therapy, before planning for any additional kind of therapy, kindly investigate this patient for early amyloid. We did electron microscopy, and electron microscopy demonstrated that there were randomly arranged fibrils which were 8 to 12 nanometer in size. So these are the cases which are like MGRS. This comes under MGRS because it is a very tiny clone which is able to cause this kind of early amyloid. So when we look at papers on amyloidosis from India, this was a paper from Professor K.S. Chuk from PJ Chandigarh, and during that time we were not routinely doing kappa lambda. So we used to say that because of high prevalence of tuberculosis infections, and that time it was there also. So around 80%, 90% cases we were seeing was secondary amyloid, and we used to say in India, when I was doing my MD, when I was doing my renal pathology training, we used to say we see mostly secondary amyloid. We don't see primary amyloid. So over the last few years, the various institutes where I've worked, what I've seen is the primary amyloid incidence is picking up. It is picking up because we as pathologists, we are picking up these early amyloid now. Because we do kappa lambda in all the biopsies, so we are able to pick up primary amyloid cases. And there are few cases of leg 2 amyloid, but yes, it is not like the secondary amyloid is like 80% and primary amyloid is 10%. It is just like secondary amyloid is maybe 55-60%, but primary amyloid is 40 to 45%. Sometimes the light chains can present as a nodular lesion, and these are the nodules. The moment you see these nodules, you label it as nodular glomerulosclerosis. So if you remember little bit of your MBBS days or MD days, whenever you see nodular glomerulosclerosis, there are 3 differentials which you consider. First is diabetes, second is diabetes, and third is diabetes. If you have proven that there is no increased HbA1c level, there is no history of diabetes, then the next step is we do kappa lambda, and kappa lambda shows that there is a light chain restriction. So the second differential for once you have excluded diabetes is light chain deposition disease, whenever you see nodular glomerulosclerosis lesion. So these are the lesions, amyloidosis and light chain deposition disease, that you will find in 90 to 95% some abnormality in the serum. Either serum-free light chain assays will show some abnormality. But in early amyloid, there may be no abnormality in the serum. Even the bone marrow will not show any significant amyloid deposits. So now I come to MGRS kind of categories which we come across these days. 50 male, known case of DLBCL, received R-CHOP, post-chemotherapy, PET scan showed significant lymphadenopathy. Now he presented with nephrotic syndrome. There is lymphadenopathy and there is a nephrotic syndrome. It is membranous. We did immunofluorescence, it showed IgG, and it showed kappa and no lambda. But this patient is a known case of DLBCL, and now he has recurrence. So this patient is not MGRS, because there is already a big clone of DLBCL which is producing this membranous. So it is MGN with IgG kappa deposit, but it is not MGRS, because this patient has a large B cell clone in form of diffuse large B cell lymphoma. Now I'll show you second scenario. Now this is how a classical MGN will look like. Both the light chain will show equal staining. There is no restriction. And if you for example, in this case, there is lambda restriction. And when you do IgG subclasses in a classical MGN, you will find all the subclasses, 1 or 2 subclasses will be there. For example, in this case, IgG1 is there, IgG4 is there. But in a classical MGRS kind of membranous, you will find only one subclass. So either there will be IgG3 subclass, or there could be only one subclass. Like in this case, there is only IgG2 staining. The rest of the subclass is IgG1, 3 and 4 is negative. So I'll just rush through this. So I come to the next case. This will interest you because it deals with more hematology kind of a thing. A 40-year male, absolute B cell count was 3,105. So this patient was labeled as monoclonal B cell lymphocytosis. And what you do in monoclonal B cell lymphocytosis is you monitor the CBC and absolute lymphocyte count every 6 months. No medication is required for monoclonal B cell lymphocytosis. Now this patient present with bilateral pedal edema, and the urine routine protein was 24-hour urinary protein was 3.5 grams. Now you have to act. If this turns out to be MGN with kappa or lambda restriction, you need to act in this case. Now this is classical MGRS. So MGRS is an entity in which you will act only because this patient has renal manifestation. You are not acting because of monoclonal B cell lymphocytosis. You are acting now, you are going to treat this clone because this patient has now present with a kidney problem and no hematological problem. So this patient had membranous, so I'll rush through these stains. IgG which was there, kappa restricted, lambda was negative. So we did EM, and EM showed some substructures which I'll show in the high magnification. So you can see some substructures. The moment you see substructure in electron microscopy, it is consistent with, it is very commonly seen in MGRS kind of diseases. So this is MGRS with a membranous pattern of glomerular injury. I come to the next case, 32-year male. And these patients, they have sometimes proteinuria with renal dysfunction. And this is a classical morphology. You will see an MPGN pattern. There will be crescents. And you will consider this is an immune complex mediated MPGN because there are crescents and all those things are there. This is a Mason's trichome stain which shows these kind of hyaline thrombi. It looks like Waldenstrom macroglobulinemia. You find hyaline thrombi or cryoglobulinemia. IgG, C3 both are there. That means it is an immunoglobulin as well as complement which is deposited. But the interesting part is kappa is positive, lambda is negative. So this is a MPGN with dysproteinemia, or in other words, this is because there are crescents also. So it is a proliferative GN with monoclonal IgG deposits. And when you do IgG subclasses, so in all these cases of MGRS, you have to do kappa lambda surely. You have to do IgG subclasses. And if possible, you can do EM also. So in this case, IgG3 staining was only there. And serum electrophoresis, so whatever cases I report of this proliferative GN with monoclonal IgG deposit, except for one case, the remaining cases, though the literature says 30% of these patients will show some abnormality in the serum. But when we come across these cases, there is nothing in the bone marrow, there is nothing in the serum, okay? So in this case, what we are doing is we have started doing paraffin immunofluorescence on the bone marrow biopsy. Like this was one case in which we were able to demonstrate that there is kappa staining along the vessels as well as some of the plasma cells are shining, but it is negative in lambda. So even 1 to 2, sometimes you say bone marrow biopsy is showing just 2% plasma cells. If you demonstrate that those 2% plasma cells are clonal plasma cells, that is very important. So people are not doing this thing, but what we have done is we have utilized the paraffin immunofluorescence on kidney biopsy tissue on other tissues as well, like bone marrow biopsy, GI biopsies. We have done on liver biopsy also. So I'll just rush through this. So these are the cases which we have seen in last 1 year. And majority of these cases will not show any abnormality in the serum. So it is very difficult to convince our hematologists that you need to treat these patients, because they will say, how I will follow up this patient? How do I know that this patient is improving? The creatinine, once the proteinuria and the creatinine settled, there is one paper which has come, which shows that in these proliferative GN with monoclonal deposit, if you give this kind of a therapy, they have shown some kidney improvement. I come to the last case. This was a Pakistan national. 5 biopsies were done. Post-transplant, this patient had rise creatinine, and the creatinine was rising from 1.5 and it rose to 4.8. The only abnormality was the tubules were showing acute tubular injury. The nephrologist said, last 5 biopsies are reported as ATN. There is something we are missing. We did immunofluorescence, everything was negative, immunoglobulins were negative. The only abnormality was they were staining with lambda and there was no staining with kappa. We did, this is a high magnification, so protein absorption droplets in the tubules, they are showing that stain. We did IHC also, which shows that there is a lambda restriction in the tubules. This is proximal tubulopathy. And once you have proximal tubulopathy, surely there has to be myeloma. So these are the common things what we see. The most common MGRS entity we see is amyloid. The second common, it is not light chain. Now it is MPGN with dysproteinemia or a proliferative GN with monoclonal deposits. And this is the recent WHO 5th edition, which shows the entities which come under MGRS. So it comes under B cell lymphoid proliferation, monoclonal gammopathy of renal significance under plasma cell neoplasm, and these are the entities. Once you see, and they have said that these 5 entities, they are almost always associated with MGRS, and these entities are increasing. And these entities are frequently associated, and there are certain entities, like I showed you MGN, they are rarely associated with MGRS. I just want to demonstrate utilization of paraffin immunofluorescence. This patient had a chronic liver disease. Everything was, they labeled it as a cryptogenic cirrhosis, cryptogenic chronic liver disease. We did kappa lambda. And we were able to demonstrate that kappa was strongly positive in the liver tissue, and it was negative for lambda. I thought that this is just a non-specific staining, but the staining for kappa was so strong, I was not able to ignore. I did it on a normal tissue. Because we get prospective liver biopsies also, there was no staining with kappa lambda. So that means there is some abnormality, there is light chain restriction there. Even in GI biopsies, we are able to demonstrate like this PS negative material as globules, and we were able to demonstrate once you do kappa lambda, there is this kind of light chains which are deposited on GI biopsy. So we have tried to utilize paraffin immunofluorescence. The recipe cost is very minimal as compared to kappa lambda-ish. It turns out to be a cheaper modality. For our developing country, it is pretty good. Thank you. This was my last slide.
Thank you for a beautiful depiction and beautiful cases. The images were really nice. One question is, what is your personal challenges in like your experience?
Madam, tell me, where are you?
Here. There.
Yes, ma'am.
What are your personal... Any particular technical challenges in bone marrow immunofluorescence?
So bone marrow immunofluorescence, see, what we did, we started doing that. Everybody told us that it is a decalcified tissue. I don't believe in all that. I feel once you try doing it, there were initial 5-6 cases where we found that there was some something non-specific staining it was coming, but now we are able to standardize. So we don't face any issues with bone marrow biopsies once we do paraffin immunofluorescence. We get
And
excellent
no
results.
additional step, nothing.
Nothing. See, we are able to pick up early amyloid on bone marrow biopsies, which on morphology you will say nothing is there. Because even a Congo rat stain, if there is tiny amyloid deposit, you will miss those deposits. So it will be picked up on this. And we have done even on plasmacytomas, plasma cell neoplasms. Sometimes there is a problem, but I feel 95% of the cases I am able to demonstrate that there is a light chain restriction by doing that.
Thank you.
I would like to inform the chair that we are running out of time. Thank you.
So, so in the interest of time, we move to the next session.
Thank you.
Yes, our next speaker, none other than Professor Maman Chandi. Obviously, doesn't need any introduction. Professor Chandi will speak on management of MGRS and transplantin myeloma with renal dysfunction. Sir.
Thank you, Utpal. I've been given two topics. I don't think I'll be able to do justice to either, but I'll quickly go through the slides. When we think of anything, we have to acknowledge the legends. And the legends are Jan Waldenstorm, who in 1960 conceived the concept of benign monoclonal gammopathy. In 1978, Robert Kyle, Vincent's mentor, introduced the term monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance. And it was in 2018 that Jean-Paul Famand introduced the term of monoclonal gammopathy of clinical significance. And that was a paper in Blood as recent as 2018. So these are the people whom we need to acknowledge when we think of the concept of monoclonal gammopathies. This is the criteria for diagnosis of myeloma, and I won't go through this. It hasn't changed from 2014. Now, what are the mechanisms of renal toxicity from monoclonal immunoglobulin, right? The first is myeloma, and you've already been shown beautiful slides that in myeloma, it's cast nephropathy, while light chain is present in abundance, and it binds to TAM-phosphol protein and gets precipitated in the tubule as casts, as you see in this beautiful slide. Now, I only want you to read that last sentence. MGCS is a small B cell clone producing a small amount of paraprotein, which is causing clinical disease. So that, in my mind, is the concept you have to have. A small clone, B cell clone, producing a small amount of immunoglobulin, but which is producing clinical disease. And today, we have many MGCSs, and my job is to tell you something about MGRS. This is the most important slide. The importance of making a correct diagnosis. This patient came to a hospital in South India in Apollo, 2009. He had proteinuria and an elevated creatinine. They did a renal biopsy. They thought there was some deposition, and he was started on thalidomide and steroids, and he had an aseptic necrosis of the femoral head. He had to have a total hip replacement. In 2013, he went to Mayo Clinic, but Maury Gertz didn't decide to repeat the renal biopsy. In 2018, I sent his original biopsy to Mayo. One of my students is there in the nephrology department. And she did a mass spec, and it was a LECT2 amyloidosis. Okay? So amyloidosis, the definition is not primary, secondary anymore. It is defined by the protein which actually got deposited as amyloid fibrils. So this patient unnecessarily got steroids. You cannot treat with an alkylator. LECT2 doesn't respond. So knowing what it is. So we need a mass spec lab in this country which can give us a correct diagnosis when we have amyloid, which is not AL amyloidosis. That's the take-home message. Two references which I think all of you should read. This is the ASH Education 2024, and this is a beautiful paper. from New England Journal of Medicine on MGRS, right? Now, this is the only slide I want you to remember. Now, in MGUS, you have a B cell clone which is making a monoclonal immunoglobulin, but it's not doing any damage, right? If it was a big clone, then it's myeloma. If it's a small clone which is producing a small amount of immunoglobulin, but this small amount is causing tissue damage, then you have MGCS, and in this particular case, MGRS. Now, I don't know whether this is true, maybe Sundar will address this, that basically, if the immunoglobulin is in some way abnormal, then it can form fibrils or it can get deposited. Whereas in MGUS, it's probably not got any physical chemical characteristic which makes it get deposited in the tissue and cause tissue damage, right? So that's the important thing, and this particular paper actually suggests that physicochemical consequences of amino acid variation contribute to fibril formation by light chains. So I think ultimately we will find a genetic change in every MGRS which results in a protein which is in some way abnormal and gets deposited in the tissues. Now, you've already had a beautiful talk on this, so I won't do that. But this is the IKMG classification of MGRS into organized deposits, non-organized deposits. And the organized deposits can be fibrils, microtubules, or crystals. And the non-organized is the light chain. And you have the progressive glomerulonephritis due to immunoglobulin deposition. In some cases, there is no documented immunoglobulin deposition. This is a beautiful slide if you want to understand the pathology. It's an NEJM paper and which tells about the different types of light chains and where they are deposited and what the consequences of that deposition is. This is the glomerulus showing the different immunoglobulins and where they are deposited. And these are the different clonal disorders which can be associated with MGRS. 60% of MGRS is amyloidosis. Only 40% is MGRS, and all the rest are non-amyloid MGRS. Clinically, it presents as proteinuria and abnormal urinary sediment, renal failure, and the presence of a paraprotein in the serum. Usually, free light chains are helpful. There are patients who have MGRS where you cannot demonstrate the clone in plasma, right? And this must not fulfill any criteria for MDUS, smoldering myeloma, myeloma, or a B-cell NHL, right? Sometimes you can have MGRS where you can't pick up the abnormal clone by free light chain or by any test that you currently have. This is the laboratory investigation of an MGRS, basic tests, bone marrow, document the light chain, renal biopsy. You've been shown beautiful pictures of what is required. I don't know many Indian labs which offer the pictures that you showed. Even to get an AL is not, let alone to get LECT or a SAP from many of these, or to get an EM, right? So the clinician struggles. He just calls it amyloid. And therefore, the idiom that you treat everybody as AL is wrong. To produce an MDS or to produce aseptic necrosis of the femur by treating a non-AL amyloidosis as AL amyloidosis is wrong. Please remember that, okay? Now, this is one of the techniques. It's RNA-based immunoglobulin repertoire sequencing, which can help to document small clones in a monoclonal gammopathy. Important clinical caveats is these diseases do not respond well to immunosuppression, 1. 2, affected patients have a very high rate of recurrence in the transplanted kidney. And 3, affected patients are at risk of progressing to either a lymphoma or a myeloma. What is the management? Very simple. Clone-directed therapy. If it's a plasma cell clone, it's plasma cell-directed therapy. I could not find guidelines how many weeks to give therapy, when to stop therapy, put maintenance. I couldn't find any of the guidelines for MGRS, right? Now, for the T1114 plasma cell clone, venetoclax may be a good option. For B-cell clonal disorders, it is rituximab-based combinations. And the baseline GFR and the depth of the hematological response will be the main determinants of long-term outcome. All the series that I could find on MGRS, 25, 30 cases. I couldn't find any large series. And this is transplantation in patients with MGRS. This is data from the Mayo Clinic. I'm not going to go through this slide, but recurrence, graft failure, many of these were problems when in the transplant for people with MGRS. And this is a nice paper on renal transplantation when you will consider in a patient with MGRS. In the 2024 ASH meeting, there were only 2 abstracts on MGRS that I could find. One was using isatuximab. So I will suspect that we are all going to treat a plasma cell clone the way we treat myeloma. This is definition of response for amyloidosis and for MGRS, and these are the response criteria. I won't go into that. Survival, the non-amyloid MGRS versus MGRS. You can see these curves here. The MGRS non-amyloid seems to do worse. What is very, very important is the response to initial therapy. If the response is good, then they do better than if they don't respond to the initial clone-directed therapy. The next part of my talk is on transplanting patients with myeloma and renal dysfunction. And there are 2 questions basically. One, what is the optimal dose of melphalan for autologous transplant in a person whose kidney is normal? First question. Second question is, if you have renal failure, if you reduce the dose, will it affect PFS? If you don't reduce the dose, will there be too much toxicity? I'm not going to address the question of quadruple therapy, which I asked Shaji yesterday, and he wasn't able to give us a randomized trial, right? So comparison of 2 dose intensive, 100 versus 200. This is a paper by Palumbo, which was published in 2004, after which a big dada, Sergio Giralt, said that 200 milligram per meter squared is the gold standard for HSCT in multiple myeloma. Not true, right? This is a paper, which is a lovely paper in Hematologica. Total number of patients, 1,719, right? That's the number. And they looked at a comparison between 140 and 200. And surprise, there was no difference in terms of progression-free survival or response. This is not the era of the current immunotherapy, the earlier era. This paper was 2018, right? So, in fact, these are the survival curves between 200 and 140. So, the basic question we have not answered, whether 200 or 140 is the correct dose for an autologous transplant in myeloma. If you believe this hematology paper, you would think not. But if you do a sub-analysis, this is a nice paper from Pakistan. It's called Finding the Sweet Spot. I like the title, and I think it's a nice paper to look at because it compares 140 and 200 in a population similar to ours in Pakistan, right? Few words about melphalan pharmacology, right? Most of the drug is protein bound, and most of it is irreversibly bound. The only pathway for breakdown is hydroxylation in plasma. It's converted to monohydroxy and dihydroxy melphalan. Very little data on how the metabolites are excreted, what is their half-life, what is their kinetics. We don't have much data. The majority of melphalan is excreted 50% in the bile and 10% in the urine. Now, this is a comparison of pharmacokinetics when your creatinine clearance is less than 40 ml and more than 40 ml. And this paper in 1996 shows that the kinetics were not different in people with abnormal renal function when you used either 140 or 200, right? And this is the data which was from Vellore showing that our generic melphalan produced by MCure, this was MCure, not the Ceylon product, performs exactly the same as Alcaran in terms of kinetics, and it is much less expensive. This is a paper on the impact of dosing, which I really don't have time to go through. And this is a nice comparison. Autologous transplant in dialysis-dependent myeloma patients. 24 out of 2,091 patients were dialysis-dependent. The progression-free survival was much lower than people without renal failure. All grades of toxicity were higher in the melphalan 200 group versus the less than 200 group. So, therefore, if 140 is as good as 200, then it is reasonable to say that if you have myeloma with renal failure, you would use 140 and not 200. And this is comparing, it's a nice paper, it was in BBMT, and compares 200 and 140, and there were some patients who got 100. And in fact, if you look at the survival curves in this paper, there was no difference between the 200 and the 140. Toxicity was definitely less in the 140. Now, what happens to renal function post-HSCT? It is about 25%. In this particular paper, it was that number, have an improvement in GFR, but 75% remain dialysis dependent after a transplant. What is the best timing for transplant? 2 years after your diagnosis. If the patient is in CR, then you can consider a renal transplant in a dialysis-dependent patient with multiple myeloma. These are IMWG recommendations, which all of you can look at. They tentatively suggest that 140 may be better in renal failure, but it's not a hard recommendation. Time for renal transplant, MRD negativity at 2 years after autologous HSCT might be the best time for doing a renal transplant in patients with ESRD and myeloma. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for an excellent talk. Now, you can have 1 or 2 questions from the audience.
Sir, you already told that there is no guideline for continuation of therapy, how many cycles. So it is always very difficult in the clinic to manage the patient. So what you do actually, what you suggest to do that? Yeah. Just continuous bortezomib therapy, just tackle the clone?
Yeah. It's, if you look at the series, it's MGRS numbers wise is not large, where clear-cut recommendations can be given. So all I can say is practically, if it's a myeloma clone, a B-cell clone which is towards myeloma with light chain, then you would treat exactly like you treat myeloma. And from the recent ASH paper on abstract on isatuximab, quadruple therapy, if you have the money, get the patient into remission. There are criteria for EGFR and protein level. And then if he remains in remission, consider a transplant with the probability that even if he is in remission, the chance of recurrence in the transplanted kidney is high. If it's a B-cell clone which is towards NHL, then you use a rituximab-based combination.
Sir, your patient, Palek 2, already suffered only the...
That particular patient actually is now dialysis dependent, is in renal failure, but agreed, we must not do harm by treating a non-AL amyloidosis as AL amyloid. That's the only message I have to give. And in India, I don't know of a mass spec lab where I can send a renal biopsy to confirm what is the protein that has caused the amyloid.
So recently we have a patient, myeloma, transplanted after some other centers, and then came us for the relapse. Nephrologist couldn't find any cause of why creatinine is jumping. We did a renal biopsy. We sent to Mayo and we got ALEC2 diagnosis.
ALEC2 diagnosis, yeah. So I think that's a very important take-home message, that we need to define the protein, and the terminology now is based upon the protein, trans-thyretin amyloidosis.
Thank you, sir, for the nice lecture. Now we'll pass on to the next